I'm Pia and you're watching NewsX. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the G7 summit in Italy. He took part in the outreach session of the summit that focused on addressing global challenges pertaining to security, economy, artificial intelligence, energy, and the Indo-Pacific. Prime Minister Modi also held a series of bilateral meetings with several world leaders, including his British counterpart Rishi Sunak, French President Emmanuel Macron, Ukrainian President Zelensky, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Additionally, he also met US President Joe Biden, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, and his Canadian counterpart Justin Trudeau on the sidelines of the summit. Now, what is notable is that it is the Prime Minister's very first G7 meeting after his third swearing in. It was also his fifth consecutive appearance at the G7 summit. It is no doubt that Prime Minister Modi is now an established global leader. This, of course, brings us to the question as to whether this is reflecting India's leadership role in the world. But before, of course, we get an expert take on this, let's hop across to my colleague Srijata, who's joining us from the newsroom to take you through what exactly was discussed in the bilateral meetings that the Prime Minister held yesterday.
Yes, Pia. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi held bilateral meetings with UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak where they discussed the implementation of the Roadmap 2030. They also expressed happiness on progress in all areas of strategic partnership. The two leaders again discussed a lot of issues such as the regular high-level political consultations. Sunak and PM Modi also discussed defense, security, trade and economic collaborations, and finally the leaders discussed technological sectors and people-to-people ties. They also expressed satisfaction with the progress in the FTA negotiations. So these were the topics, and PM Modi and PM Meloni discussed expanding of India and Italy's strategic partnership. They also discussed, the two leaders had focused on defense, cyber security, trade, investment, technology, space and telecom. The leaders also discussed cooperation in Indo-Pacific region and Mediterranean region. So these were the topics PM Modi and PM Meloni touched upon in their bilateral meeting. PM Modi also held discussion with Macron where they focused on Horizontal 2047 roadmap, discussed cooperation in defense, education, space sector and climate action. The two leaders also touched upon enhancing connectivity and digital public infrastructure. They also discussed people-to-people ties, enhancing people-to-people ties. Moving on, they also agreed to intensify strategic cooperation with focus on Make in India. They also agreed to expand cooperation in AI, energy and sports. So Prime Minister Modi and Zelensky also discussed ways to strengthen bilateral ties between India and Ukraine. The two leaders exchanged their views on the situation in Ukraine amid the war with Russia, and they also focused on preparations for the peace summit that's going to take place in Switzerland.
Joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Robinder Sajdev, who's an international affairs expert. Sir, thank you for speaking to us on NewsX. First of all, I would like to ask you a question in regards to the Modi-Macron bilateral that was held there. Bonhomie was clearly on display. The leaders hugged as well, and they spoke in particular about Horizon 2047 and bolstering defense capabilities with a special focus on Make in India. Now, France has been a time-tested partner. They, in fact, refused to condemn the Pokhran nuclear tests even after the US imposed sanctions. And since then, we have worked in close partnership with them as far as the strategic sector is concerned. We're, of course, seeing a partnership that now transcends the strategic sphere. Trade stands at $13 billion. The number of students going to France for higher studies is also increasing year by year. So I'd like to ask you, are we now witnessing the consolidation of India's pivot towards France at the global sphere?
Interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I would not say it's a pivot, perhaps, but I mean, this pivot has, as you yourself said, been a long time in the works, right? India-France relations have been strategic and over decades now, and in areas of defense, in areas of space, even in nuclear energy, the talks are there, though I mean the plants have not been, implemented yet, etc. So India and France relations definitely, yes, are getting deeper and wider, let's put it that way. And as you highlighted, there is an emphasis on people-to-people relations also more. I think last year when Macron was here, or maybe this year only, right? They announced that they will be opening up many more centers for learning of French as a language. Okay, so these that's one example, because language is obviously always a hurdle of sorts, in people-to-people exchanges, and more, scholarships being opened up for higher studies and all. So it definitely is widening and deepening. So India-France relations are on a very fine trajectory and will continue to be on that trajectory. However, there's one little red flag I see with France and with several other countries. With the rise of the right in Europe, there are increasing demands of protectionism, trade protectionism to be precise, right? That higher import tariffs to be imposed, etc. This is a trend all across. I would say it's not particular to France. I mean, it's out there with the US also. They're raising their tariffs, and if Trump comes, tariffs will go up even further. So these are barriers to trade promotion, so to say. So that's a worldwide trend, you could say, which would also be reflected in France. But overall, our relations with France are going great.
All right, and apart from this, speaking of the rise of the right in the world, I'd also like to draw attention to the bilateral held with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. We know of her hard stance against immigration in particular and economic protectionism as well. In fact, her government did not renew the memorandum of understanding that they had with China as far as the BRI is concerned. Now, in the meeting that was held with Prime Minister Meloni, both leaders called for expanding commercial ties, clean energy, manufacturing, telecom, AI, critical minerals, as well as building resilient supply chains. In fact, they also discussed security cooperation and spoke about enhancing defense industrial collaboration in particular. So how do you view India's ties with Italy? Are they now burgeoning, especially since Italy has taken a step back from its collaboration with China?
Thank you, Pia. Yeah, definitely. You see, India and Italy ties would be on a newer trajectory for over the next 5 years. And part of the reason is also, the government in Italy. And firstly, I mean, Giorgia Meloni, her party seems to be more stable now. In fact, compared to all the other G7 leaders over there, right? Macron, he's heading for parliamentary. Rishi Sunak is heading for parliamentary. Germany is kind of being handicapped. Biden is due for something. So out of the G7 leaders, Kishida is new. Okay, fine. Japan has its own. Meloni is the only one who's standing strong, apparently, right? That's one. And here we have Prime Minister Modi, fresh into his third term, over the next 5 years, a clean slate, so to say. And also there are ideological similarities. The party we have in power in India is definitely, a right party or a center-right party, similar to the Meloni thing in Italy. So there are ideological similarities, and also, of course, as you said, Italy has backed away from the BRI. It has withdrawn actually from the BRI initiative. So India and Italy will find, I think, more common cause in the years ahead on a strategic, geostrategic level. And at the same time, when there is more alignment on those levels, definitely, yes, there's a lot of work which can be done to promote or improve the trade between the two countries. And once again, scientific exchanges, technology transfer. Again, people to people may not have been directly discussed, but people to people is always, bottom line for any relations with any country, right?
Indeed.
So all that said, so definitely, yes, I think with Italy, our relations will accelerate, certainly.
All right, sir. And one last question, since you mentioned Kishida, and Japan and India are, of course, members of the Quad. But apart from the strategic aspect, an interesting topic that was discussed in the Modi-Kishida bilateral was that of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project. The leaders deliberated also upon the targeted investment of 5 trillion yen from Japan as well. Now, how do you view the continued strengthening of India's ties with Japan, especially in the economic realm, and how do you think this can also help, in fact, consolidate India-Japan friendship and in extension, our mutual interests as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned?
Great. Okay, we narrow down to economic only. See, India-Japan relations have been fantastic in terms of economic linkages, you could say. But, they are marked by high volume investments only by the Japanese supported governments, right? Or Japanese government supported banks. The vast majority of small, medium Japanese companies are still not increasing in India. The ecosystem is being prepared. There's huge intent by the Japanese government to push their businesses to come to India. There's a huge push, no doubt. The infrastructure projects like, the bullet train, the DMIC corridor, the bullet this thing, and some other corridors, the Japanese are very much investing, but it's the large Japanese banks backed by the government who are doing. If you look, so there is huge scope. There's a huge intent to push from the Japanese government side investments toward India. There's a huge effort by India to attract the Japanese investments into us. However, for some reason, the tap has not been flowing at full speed so far yet. If you look at the Japanese companies getting out of China, more of them are going to Vietnam and Indonesia. In the last 5 years, in India, there are 1,450 or so, I think, yes, about a year ago, that was the number. There are 1,450 Japanese companies. In the last 5 years, the number has gone down by 1. 6 companies closed operations and 5 new ones came in. So what I'm saying is that there's a huge intent, but the flow is not increasing. So that flow has to increase, and for that is definitely there are lots of efforts being made by both the government of India and the government of Japan. As I said, there's a huge intent, but there are hurdles, including once again the issue of language, between Japan and India. And then, of course, the whole range of ease of doing business aspects or whatever. But the bottom line is that Japanese companies are going like floods into Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, but not setting up base in India yet, smaller ones.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time speaking to us on the broadcast today. Meanwhile, viewers, Prime Minister Modi also addressed the outreach session at the G7 summit. He called for efforts to ensure that the benefits of technology reach all sections of society and unleashing the potential of every individual, as well as helping eliminate social inequalities. He stressed that for technology to be successful, it has to be underpinned by a human-centric approach. He also stressed at the G7 outreach session on AI, energy, and cited India's success in leveraging digital technology for public service delivery. He also stated that we must strive to make technology creative and not destructive. PM Modi talked about India's AI mission as well and emphasized that technology should be aimed at fostering progress and well-being for all. The Prime Minister also said that it was a matter of great satisfaction for him to be attending the summit after his re-election, of course. Meanwhile, joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Hariom Seth, who's the founder of Tag Labs, also a tech expert. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on NewsX. Prime Minister Modi, of course, representing India once again at the G7 for the 5th consecutive time. This time his speech primarily focused on technology and how to leverage it, how to harness it for the good of humanity. India has particularly constantly reiterated our theme of AI for all, for the good of all in particular. How do you view India's approach to emerging technologies such as AI? Because we've seen the digital public infrastructure that we've already built in our country. It has helped countless people living not just in the cities but also in the rural areas as far as transactions are concerned. So this is reflective of something that is easing the lives of people. What else is India now giving a message to the world as far as leveraging technology for the good of people's lives is concerned?
Right. So, yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. So I think from the intent standpoint and the direction standpoint, India is very clear where they want to go. They have publicly supported development of AI for good of all. Though we have an uphill battle because uh, in the West, billions of dollars are being invested to build AI, and technology works in a certain way. People don't prefer nationalistic technologies. They prefer global outperforming technologies. Like all of us use WhatsApp, all of us use Gmail, which are built in the West, not because they are from the West, but because they are best products in the world. So from the intent standpoint, India is moving in the right direction, but it is going to be a long battle because we have to compete with billions of dollars that are invested in the West in big companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google. So there is a tough battle out there.
Indeed, you've spoken about OpenAI. In fact, Apple is looking at incorporating ChatGPT in its new iPhone that is going to be releasing, and the new operating system as well. So the competition out there is very tough. Now, India has a lot to cover as far as the technological chasm between India and the US is concerned. We are, of course, reflecting our aspirations at the global stage to lead as far as the tech sphere is concerned. And a lot is being done in India to foster an environment of innovation. But what else do you think can be done to encourage the youth in particular to go out, experiment, and also foray into artificial intelligence?
Right. So I think why specifically West and parts of China, they are successful in building cutting edge technology is because there is a environment of comfort towards risk taking, whereas in India specifically, most of us we take education and we do startups because primarily we want to increase our economic status and improve our lifestyle. So I think if there could be a systematic approach towards risk taking where early in the age we are conditioned to take high risk bets and we are secured in a certain way to do well in cutting edge technologies, I think that culture would be built. I don't think that India can compete with the global technology center in next 5 years. But if we continue, I think 10 to 15 years, we would definitely have a big seat on the table in the global technology landscape.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.